Well, since it's another nice sunny day, I thought I'd get another bed all prepped up and ready for planting. And this is one I've been doing this morning. As we did with that top layer, I've dug all the roots out. So basically took around half the compost out of this planter, and then I've added some fish blood and bone and then topped it up with new compost. So that is ready to go. And as with that one that we did earlier, it's only costing us half the price to fill them up this year. But I definitely need to put something over the top of that bed before cats see it. So I'll find something for that a little bit later on. That's as garlic as well. That's looking alright. I think it might be time to move that on. And the same with this one. Just a quick update on those container onions. Once again, they don't look much of anything until they start to pick up, but at least they are trying. And I've just dismantled that green stalk vertical planter. There's bits of it all over the place at the moment because I'm going to move it somewhere else, I think, for this season. I might put it somewhere there because it gets sun pretty much all day through summer. Apart from doing that, I've got myself ready to sow some tomato seeds. And even though I keep making videos telling people to make sure they've got all the seeds that they need, when I went through that box, I realised I didn't have any myself. But I took a little trip back to the garden centre and I'll show you what I picked up this week. So, as I was saying earlier, I checked all my seeds and there's not a single tomato seed to be found. So, just in case you haven't checked your seed box, make sure you've got what you need. As it gets warmer, we'll be planting a lot more things, especially in April. So I went back to that same garden centre, and the trouble with me is when I go to a garden centre, if I see things, I just buy them. So I thought, while I was at the centre, I might as well buy something. So I bought these. I'm sure you've all seen these before. That's lettuce. It's really nice, colourful lettuce as well. And this pack contains 12 separate plants, and it was £2.99. And I don't think that's bad, really, when you consider that those are going to keep reproducing leaves for quite a while. Because it's a leafing lettuce, you can just take leaves off as they grow and then they'll grow back again. So there's a lot to come from that. So I thought I'd definitely pick one of those up. And then I saw beetroot. And this one is called Pablo. I don't know if anybody's grown that one before. It's a nice looking little beetroot, that. And once again, these are multi-sown. And that's the exact same thing that we're doing with the ones that were set up quite recent. That's how they'll come out. And then we'll take that whole bunch out and we'll plant that together as it is. And as we've said before, you've got two options. You can either let the leaves grow and take the leaves to drop in salads, mix up with other things that you've got, or you can plant them as a multi-sown bunch and leave them to grow actual beetroots. And if you've ever done multi-sown onions, we haven't done that this year, but we have got it on previous videos. You've got 4 or 5 onions all growing together in one space, and as they grow, they just push each other apart. So you end up with 4 or 5 medium onions in a very small area, and that's the exact same thing you do with this beetroot. So that's a couple of things that we got, but as always, I didn't stop there. I saw some really nice looking lettuce, and that is the name of that one. And it's kind of a small romaine lettuce, which I really like. So it's basically like a little gem. And the plants are very healthy looking. And once again, all these packs were the same price. You get 12 plants or 12 multi-sown plants for that money, which I think is really good. But it's got nothing to do with tomatoes, I already know. But before I get to that, I also saw something else. So I decided to get one. I'm sure you've all grown those before. It's jalapeno or jalapeno, whichever way you pronounce that. But a nice healthy looking plant, but to me, it does look a little bit leggy. So what I'll do with that plant is I'll bury it right down to there where you've got the first leaves that came out, and that will take that little bit of a stretch out of that plant, and it won't hurt your plant. But they're not like tomatoes. They won't grow roots from that stem that you bury, but it won't hurt the plant by doing that. All it's going to do is make it more stable. So I'm going to do that shortly. I'm going to put it in a slightly bigger pot. Then I can have a look at the roots to see what they're like, and we'll sink it down, and then we've got a nice little stocky plant to start with. So then moving forward, I saw these tomato plants, but they're not just a regular tomato plant. Let me know if you've grown these before, because if you did, I'm sure you were quite happy with them. I just get that label out of where that plant. That's a Tumbling Tom tomato plant. And these are determinate plants. And I did explain in a previous video that if you buy a tomato plant and it's a determinate, that means it's a dwarf or bush variety. So this only grows to a certain size, flowers, sets fruit, the fruit ripens, and then it's done. But these particular plants I've grown before in past, and they cascade. So they grow down the outside if you plant her. But ideally, you can put these in hanging baskets, and you'll just have all these fruits all around that basket, draping down, ready to pick as soon as they turn ripe. So I might try a couple of hanging basket plants, and then the others will find small containers. And that's the beauty of these, because they don't take up a lot of space, but they do produce quite a lot of fruit. And another advantage of these, if you plant these as it starts to warm up approaching summer, you'll be harvesting fruit off these plants in about 70 days, which is quite quick. So I decided to buy 6. Why not? And if I remember right, there was about £1.50 a plant or something like that. So really nice established plants, but cheap enough to buy a few in advance. And obviously we'll be growing these indoors. Don't buy plants like this and then put them outside, because if the temperature drops right down, it could kill your plant. And also, these plants was on the inside of the garden centre, not outside, for that exact reason. So when you buy plants like this, you also need to harden them off. Anything that you grow indoors, you can't just take and put outside, because it's not used to the weather. So you need to harden your plants off. Anything that you grow indoors needs to be hardened off. And basically what that means is acclimatising it to outside conditions. You might have been growing these indoors, maybe under grow lights, or popping them on a windowsill so they catch some light. But once you take them outdoors, then they've got all the other elements to battle with. The temperature going up, dropping down, you've got winds and things like that, and they're not suited to it. So basically you could shock your plants and they'd die. And full sunlight on a plant that's not used to it won't do it any good at all. So what you need to do is take them outdoors for about 30 minutes a day and then bring them back in. And if you do that for a week, then that plant is hardened off and ready to be put outside for duration. But going through these plants, they're all more or less the same size. Really nice looking. And if you get any of these plants and you think, oh, it looks like it's a bit saggy on one side, and you think there might be something wrong with it, it's not a case of that. That's how these plants grow. They kind of look a bit raggedy as they're growing, but they'll soon start and fill out. And if we take a close look, hopefully you'll be able to see. If you look at the stem of that plant, I'm hoping it's going to pick it up for you. You should see all little hairs on that stem. Get it as close as possible. And that is what turns into roots if you bury it. So this plant could be buried once again right down to that first leaf, just to take a little bit of that stretch out. But on these sort of plants you don't really need to do that, because they'll only grow to a certain height anyway, and then they'll start to fill out. And another thing that's worth knowing, if you look just in between those stems, you can see there's little side shoots coming out. And what you do on a normal tomato plant is you pick those off all the way through season, because if you don't, they'll just go crazy and you'll just have a jungle of foliage. And we're trying to grow fruit, not foliage. But when it comes to your bush varieties, you leave those on, because the more branches that this plant can grow in its lifetime, the more fruit that you're going to get. So that's the difference between determinates and indeterminates. Make sure on any bush varieties you leave those little side shoots on, and you will get a lot more fruit. But yeah, obviously red cherry tomatoes that you get from these plants. But you can also get these with yellow tomatoes if you like those. So it's a really good variety to grow. Very compact, high yielding, easy to care for as well, and can be planted in something as small as an hanging basket. I can't fault them. And until I get some more seeds, because I will be getting some at some point, I thought, why not invest in these and get them growing indoors, so that by the time we get to that point where we've passed this last frost date, which I believe in this area is just at the end of April, then we're going to be good to go to take them outside and leave them outside and wait for those amazing cherry tomatoes. But as for the other one, we're going to take that outside and quickly just pot it on, and then we know we've took that little bit of a stretch out of this plant. And that's the exact same thing that you would do with regular tomato plants if they've got a bit leggy. So another very quick, easy job. A bigger container, you don't need to go too mad. And this is new compost, so I know it's got nutrition. We don't need to fill it up to the top, but what we do need to do is take this plant out and have a look at that root system. So the root system is perfectly fine, no problems there at all. So we can basically just drop that plant in and then pushing it down and centering it at the same time. You're not hurting your plant by doing that. So we've pushed that down, leveled it off, and we've gone below that rim. So we can now backfill. Then just press that all down around it. You can compact it down so that when you come to take it out, you know it's not going to fall apart. Always a good idea to do that. And after you've done that, you can see that that plant is a lot better. We've got rid of that stretched stem and took it down to these leaves. And that's the exact same thing that you would do with your tomato plants to get rid of that legginess. So simple, quick fix, and we're all good. And we'll get that label back in. So there we go, a quick, easy fix, and we've got a nicer, stockier looking plant. And one of the main reasons for doing that, with any type of sweet pepper or chili pepper, at some point these plants are going to be bearing fruit, and that's going to make it top heavy. So if you don't bury them just a little bit deeper, then it's going to make that plant unstable. And the last thing you want is a plant that's fully loaded getting blown over and snapping that stem. And if you are concerned about your plants when they get to a certain height, just stick a cane right down the centre and tie your plant on. They only reach a certain size anyway. But for the moment, that's set it up for an healthier growing season. So that's it for this video. But thank you so much to a couple of people that have donated to the channel. I really do appreciate that. And that was Stephen McCloskey, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and Susan Constantine. Thank you so much for your generosity, and that money will get put back into this channel when we need to buy things like this, fresh compost or seeds. So, very kind of you to make a donation. Thank you very much. So that is it for this video, but we've got plenty more to do as it starts to warm up even more. And if you want to see what else we do as the weather improves, then please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. I'll see you next time. Take care.